Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Save Scumming. Today we are talking about the changes to the cult mechanics. You guys have requested that I go through the Monogod demon factions and talk about the changes of the cults. So we've already done Khorne in my Skulls Everyday series. We did a little change video on what they did specifically for Khorne. I found it to be pretty basic, and today we're going to be covering Tzeentch. Now, when you're considering the impact of what's going on with the Tzeentchian cults, you have to consider that Kairos has always sort of been a faction that is designed to build tall, not wide, and to really manipulate the campaign map through the changing of the ways, not necessarily direct military action. And in doing so, you end up holding very little territory. You can see that it's turn 51 here, and I only have the Southern Chaos Wastes. I'm doing pretty good. There are also opportunities out there to get territory in the Empire and the Northern Chaos Wastes if you move quickly enough. I just kind of opted for playing with the Southern Chaos Wastes this time around, and I think when you look at what the cults do for you, they are very heavy into grimoire building. So let's go ahead and look at some northern cults here to see what we've got available. All right, so if we were to look at this settlement here, and we'll get to how I set these all up here shortly, but the building that you're going to build everywhere, every single cult that you build, except for the Magus cults initially, and we'll get to the Magus cults here in a little bit, is going to be this. It's the branching plans. And what this does is it acts very much like the Skaven Undercity mechanic, but it only takes like 2 turns to build. It also gives you 10 grimoires per turn and a 5% chance to expand. If the winds of magic are high, it gives you an additional 20 grimoires per turn and an additional 5% to spread. The thing about these cults is there is no way to reduce the discoverability. So whatever you build, you got to deal with. So there is the opportunity, if it's an area that isn't going to be frequented by a lot of heroes, that you could build this and right on top of it, build this. This is a very cheap building. So you might build, like over here, I only have this built here because I only had 500, and this builds relatively quickly as well. So your main grimoires are going to come from this while you're expanding. This is very hit or miss with the Winds of Magic, strong or higher. So if we just kind of like scroll through, that one that we were just on has it. This one does not. If we move to another province, this one does not. These are settlement buildings. This one does. That's another settlement building. I can't see it here. Settlement. This one does not. You get the idea. It's kind of, this one does not. It's very hit or miss on whether you're going to get that bonus or not. But having it there and leaving it there, if you don't plan to do anything else with it, it's a pretty good strategy, provided that you have the money to do it, because it is relatively expensive. I think it's $2,000 to build this. Let's find one just to. Yes, it is 2,000. So. And of course, you know, these ones don't have it. So those are the 2 main buildings that you're going to use. But there is more in this chain, and there are 3 chains when it pertains to the standard build capabilities of a normal cult that is just set up with your normal cultist. Let's go back to this. This one is going to be a changing of the ways cost minus 80%, but it comes with a 200 point discoverability. So this is going to be discovered. You basically build this right before you intend to use a lot of changing of the ways, expecting that it's not going to last very long. That it might last a turn or 2 before the enemy destroys it. So this is one of those incidental things. Now, it does not destroy the cult once it is popped like some other things, but likely the enemy is going to destroy that cult. So use this in a region that is bracketed around by several of the branching plans. Like if I were to build that building right here in the Palace of Ruin, I could very quickly put branching plans there, and over here, and then really quickly recapture that with a cult, and I'm not really out anything. You know what I mean? So that is a viable way to do it. This one, I don't use this very often because I don't find a whole lot of utility in just increasing the local corruption, unless we're trying to go for the bonuses that are provided by local corruption. So I think there's one in here. Yeah, Tzeentch corruption right here is positively impacted. So if you were to build this is discoverability of 40. This is a discoverability of 40. So if you've got a province that you're trying to increase the Tzeentch corruption in, then this is a good way to do it. And all you need to do to really boost that is put a hero in the region, and you should increase that corruption. Again, I only used this once in this campaign thus far, and it was for something very specific. And then over here, we have corruption again, and then hero chance. So again, depending on how this is a provincial bonus. So you could potentially, the way I would suspect to use this is if you've got a Magus that you're about to pop, and then you want to decrease the cost of that, and then simply delete that off and then put something else there afterwards, then that can cheapen it a little bit for you. So that is for this building chain here. This is where you're going to spend most of your time. But then there's some additional things that are going on here. Like this one, if you're really hard up for grimoires, like you know that you're going to need grimoires in 2 turns, then you can destroy the cult completely in exchange for 500 grimoires, and you can boost the winds of magic in the province. So if you really need to generate these points for your winds of magic channeling, if you really need to generate these, then I could get a cult up here, for instance, in, say, this, actually, I could put a cult here, pop that, get 500 grimoires, and then that will destroy the cult, and it'll boost this all the way up to tempestuous, in which case I have now padded all of this, and then all of my stuff would have access to the tempestuous points, so that I could redistribute those across a larger territory if I was hurting in a particular area. Or let's just say that I've got a protracted conflict in this area, and I want to make sure that we are continuing to gain Winds of Magic power reserve, right? So that would be a good way to use that. Let's go back to one of these cults up here and keep on going. This one I use quite a bit. This allows you to instantly move Kairos wherever you want, and this destroys the cult on completion. So this is a next turn, I really need to get Kairos somewhere, and this is how you relocate him. This costs grimoires and not money. This one is money. This one, or I guess favor, excuse me. We are talking about Demon Faction. This one costs grimoires. Difference there. We have the Magus buildings, the Cult Magus. The Cult Magus is something that costs you 300. It comes with a discoverability of 90. Now, I've never had one of these discovered, but I'm also pretty careful about where I build them. If you've got any hero activity projected in that area, you don't want to put it there. I would say probably stay away from building these in major settlements. I know that this one is in Middenheim, for instance, but this is one that was built for me through the random Magus capabilities. and you have to sit on this thing for 10 turns before you get this, which instantly destroys the building, not the cult itself, but it generates you a cult magus. And we'll talk about the cult magus right now. Now, we will have to consult the wiki on this. I thought that I had one ready to go, and actually I didn't. Unlike the normal cultist that has a 15-turn cooldown after starting a cult and can be put in and out of armies, the cult magus is destroyed when he starts a cult and cannot be put into an army. It's a campaign map exclusive unit, an agent, if you will. But when he starts a cult, he gets a special cult magus chambers, and that generates 50 income. It also siphons 10% of the income from the local settlement. And if the Tzeentch corruption in that area, it generates some Tzeentch corruption, but if it is over 50, then Lord Recruit rank faction-wide is +1, and the hero capacity for cultists is +1. If you get the Tzeentch corruption over 75, then there is the only location that you can reduce the discoverability. This is a pretty powerful building, particularly in the early game, but you probably won't be using it in the early game because there's another building that, in my opinion, you should build, which destroys the cult magus. And what that does is generate 3 random cults around the map, and that is what I have done that allows you to start new areas of branching plans. So what you end up with is these various loci where that cult was started, and then I'm going to be able to branch out all across here. This cult was started. I'm going to be able to branch out there, there. You can see all of these small pockets were generated off of destroying the cult magus chambers and instead opting for 3 new locations across the map that I can start those branching plans, because what I want is lots of grimoires. You can see that I'm turn 50. I'm not producing a lot of grimoires, but I'm producing 300 grimoires. Here in a few turns after I get all those cults up to speed, because I'm about to pop another series of them, you're going to end up with thousands of grimoires generated per turn. And that allows you to then have this small territory down here that is built very tall, and just to screw with all of the other factions in your area with the changing of the ways. And I think that while this is a substantially different play style than a lot of other ones, I would say that the Wood Elves play pretty tall, but they're pretty isolated. You can move around the map whenever you want, wherever you can build a cult when it comes to the Tzeentchian factions, versus moving across the map with the Wood Elves is restricted to only a few settlements. But that is my look at the campaign changes as it pertains to the cults in the Tzeentchian factions. And I think I need your guys' input. Do you want Nurgle or Slaanesh next? Thanks for watching the Art of Safe Scumming, and hopefully we'll see you on another one here pretty soon.